because this is a question from the CEO from Moonen Packaging, who is so enthusiastic.
And what is his name?
Ge Moonen.
Okay.
He wanted to ask you this question. Do the often rigid environmental criteria put on the China by the West, do they also limit prosperity in China?
I don't think anybody thinks about it that way. I mean, I think that Chinese people are very comfortable with standards and codes and regulations. I mean, for good or bad. I mean, for bad because it's not really an innovative way to think, but we love setting new standards, right? So we see LEED, the green building standard, and then we're like, we come out with the green star standard for buildings, right? So I don't think anybody in China thinks about it as like limiting prosperity. I think it's really like the China Dream Initiative. It's about what is prosperity, is to really think about, the social fabric of things versus just the infrastructure of things, right?
Yeah. But also, like a lot of production in China is driven by Western consumers.
Yes.
So, like, in making change, is it then the responsibility of the Chinese government to put on standards on those companies, or is it?
Well, that's a great context to talk about the question of does all this Western environmental restrictions or standards put a damper on prosperity? I think that really, if you talk to the factory worker who used to be a villager not so long ago, or the factory owner who used to not be a villager not so long ago, what they're confused about is not necessarily just the standard, or they're like, I don't want these standards. They're fine with standards.
Yeah.
It's the fact that you have like 5 different countries that are your customers, and each one of them have different standards. And then you have 5 different customers from England that have different reporting standards for their accounting, requirements. And then they get really confused. They're like, God, can we just have one standard, please, right? So it's not the standards themselves that are putting a damper on productivity. It's the fact that we're not like all on the same page, right? And so part of the project that we're working on in industrial energy efficiency, light industry energy efficiency with energy efficiency exchange, and the brilliant CEO Terence Sullivan is making that simpler.
Yeah.
So all your data goes into one system that's easy for the factory worker to understand, no matter how illiterate they might be, and then that turns into magically different reports and different reporting styles for different standards, right? So you can imagine sitting there as somebody who went through maybe high school, right? To be so confused by Marks and Spencer in England versus H&M in Sweden, and they want their data to be reported in completely different ways.
Yeah.
Right? So I think if you're on the ground in China, you understand the context of where the confusion is coming from. Yeah. And then China really, productivity is being driven in other ways other than environmental requirements, is things like wages are rising as you urbanize. And so the factories that used to be here and depend on low wages are now moving inwards to the West in China.
Yeah, you're right. Interesting. That's completely different for you, of course.
Yes.
You never think about it.
Yes.
It's so confusing.
Yes.
Yeah.